Hello and welcome to another episode of Coach Toya Live. I apologize. We had a little bit of technical issues on my part, of course, but we've got it all worked out now. So tonight is the number one thing that people always want to know. They want to know where's the money. We did a poll in my group a couple of weeks ago, and we asked if you could apply for a mortgage today, what would stop you from doing that? And an overwhelming majority said money. It was mainly credit issues or money. So Reggie and I decided to come back together and talk about what is available out there. What's going on? We know there's a new administration. What's going on with that, where that's concerned? But just overall, I'm sure there's something out there to help people that don't have money for down payment qualify for a home. So Reggie, I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to let you take it and tell us what's going on in North and South Carolina about money.
Sure. Thank you, Toya. Good evening to everybody and Happy New Year. Hope everybody's getting started off to a very healthy and prosperous 2021, putting 2020 behind us. And tonight I want
Yes.
to, kind of join the group and talk about down payment assistance and the different ways to finance the purchase of a home. When purchasing a home, there are three boxes we have to check. The first one being income. How are you going to pay back this loan? You're making a 30-year commitment or 15-year commitment, depending on how long you decide to finance. And we will make sure that you have stable income going forward. The second is the credit score. How reliable or what's the amount of risk associated with your payback history. And the third part of it is down payment and closing costs, which is what we're going to focus on tonight. Usually, you are required to put anywhere from 3 to 5% down. Okay, with the FHA loan, that's a minimum of 3.5. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm just going to use a $200,000 home as an example. 3.5% on a $200,000 home is $7,000. We will finance the other 193,000. Okay. The lender's thinking is we'll take, 96.5% of the risk and you put up, a little bit of skin in the game, and take 3.5% of the risk. Okay. In addition to your down payment, you have closing cost, which are things like attorney fees, property taxes, homeowners insurance, appraisal, origination, just the third party costs associated with getting the deal to the table since you're doing a legal real estate transaction, recording the deed correctly at the courthouse and things of that nature. On a $200,000 home, that's going to run you somewhere in the neighborhood of another $6,000. Okay. Uh, so in total, to get that $200,000 home to the table, you're gonna need a total of 13,000. There is a lot of flexibility in terms of where that money can come from. Uh, Savings, anything you have saved up, um, a gift from a family member who's willing to help you out, as long as we can document where that money's come from. A 401k or IRA, that is an acceptable form as long as we can source where the money comes from as well, and down payment assistance. Now, going back last year into the pandemic, a lot of down payment assistance programs were suspended, but they're coming back as of January and February of this year. The reason that they were suspended was because a lot of people were losing jobs through no fault of their own. The companies that issued the down payment assistance were telling the lenders, if this customer loses their job after they've gotten the keys to the house, okay, uh, it's called a post closing verification of employment. Okay, and if you lost a job 30 days after you got after you got the keys to the home and could no longer pay the house, we would, as the lender, would have to be required to buy that loan back, and it just became too risky. Okay, so they were suspended for the time being, but South Carolina down payment assistance came back in January. North Carolina comes back in February the 1st. And I'm also going to talk about two other ones for the city of Charlotte, House Charlotte and also CPLP. Any questions so far before we get into some of the specifics?
I am looking. I don't see any comments yet.
Okay.
So hang on. Let me double check. Okay. I think I think we're good. I don't see any comments yet.
Okay. So the first one I'm going to talk about is South Carolina. Okay, they're the most recent, and we're doing that now. And it is through the state of South Carolina. And it is income driven. They are going to look at what county you're looking to purchase in, and then there is what's called an AMI, an average median income. Okay, and depending on where your income is in relation to the average of that county, you can qualify for up to $7,000 of down payment assistance. They're going to look at things about such as how many people are going to be living in a home. So for example, if a family of four, and the average, and I'm just pulling numbers out at this point, and the average income for a family of four in York County, South Carolina is 75,000. If you fall below that threshold, you are entitled to up to $7,000. Okay. They feel that if you make more than that, you probably don't need down payment assistance. This is for people who have the credit scores, but don't necessarily have the wherewithal to save the money. And there are reasons for that. A couple of main reasons for that are because rents are rising so fast that people who are rent don't have the ability to save for a down payment and pay that increasing rent at the same time. Okay. The second part are student loans. A lot of people are burdened with student loan debt, which
Oh
makes
yeah.
it again hard to save. So these are people who are already paying $1,300 a month in rent, so they can make a mortgage payment. Okay. But coming up with the down payment and closing costs can be a stretch. And let me throw in, it turns out, a tax refund too, because I know it's about to be tax season. And if you get a tax refund, that is an acceptable form of down payment and paying closing costs too. The $7,000 can be used for down payment and closing cost, or buying down the rate. Anything associated with the purchase, the fees associated with uh, purchasing a home. It does not go to an inspection. You have to pay that out of pocket, and it doesn't go to the appraisal. You will be required to pay that out of pocket. An appraisal will run you about $500. Outside of that, though, your down payment, your 3.5%, attorney fees, property taxes, homeowners insurance. I'm trying to think anything else. Deed transfer, origination, anything under that umbrella, the $7,000 will cover. Now, more times than not, you have to put a little bit of money to it. Now, there are stipulations. If you're taking the state's money, they're going to have some strings attached. Okay, nothing in real estate is for free. Okay, so they're not just giving the money. So some of the stipulations are going to be, how much money do you make? Do you qualify income wise? That's the first thing. You will need, for South Carolina, a 620 minimum credit score. We pull all three credit bureaus: Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. We take the middle score. Anybody on that loan has to have a minimum of 620. Okay, if not, down payment assistance will not, be an option. Um, Again, we take that middle score. In addition to that, this is what's called a silent second mortgage on the home. So the $7,000 is a loan. Okay, you will never make payments on it. Okay, uh, it gets paid off. If you stay in the home for 15 years, it's forgiven. It goes away. You don't have to pay it back. If you leave that home or sell it before that 15-year period, it will be repaid with the proceeds from the sale of the home. Okay, so you buy a home for 200, you sell it in year 10 for 250. Okay, let's say you paid the loan down to 150. You're going to pay back, take 250, subtract the 150 you owe, and then pay back the 7. So you're paying back 157, and then you walk away with the rest.
And which program is this?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Okay.
South
And there
Carolina,
was
definitely.
someone that asked if we were going to put the programs in the group. And so, yes, we will list the names of the
Yeah,
program.
I'll send you the
We're going to put that
information.
out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we'll put that out, and links to where you can go take a look by all means. Um, the maximum debt to income. This is very important. 45%. Okay, and that's of your pre-tax income. So we look at your gross. We're going to divide that by 12. That's going to give us a number. Your liabilities, things like car notes, credit cards, anything debt related, student loans, um, any notes receivable, installment loans, debt consolidation loans, including the new mortgage, can't go above 45% of that monthly income figure. Okay, that's a hard cap. They don't want you to overextend yourself. So it can limit the amount of house you can get depending on what other debt you have out there. If it's an FHA loan, we have to use either what's on the credit report, but I know a lot of student loans are in deferment right now. You have to use 1% of the outstanding balance for the payment. So if you owe $50,000, that will be a $500 monthly payment off top. And that's an
So
FHA rule.
I don't mean to cut you off right there, but that's an interesting point because a lot of people are having issues with student loans. So because it's everyone's are in deferment, there's no way to pull them out of deferment like sometimes we tell people to do if they want to do FHA financing. So what are you guys doing, or what's the mortgage companies doing to
Mhm.
offset that 1% thing rule?
Right, right. There are a couple things. Now, the one thing, and you got to balance it, right? I mean, if you're not using down payment assistance, you can go up to 57% debt to income with the FHA. That's the trade off. Why you have to use 1% for the student loan, they also let you go up to 57% debt to income if you can come up with your own down payment and closing cost. Okay. If you have student loan debt and you have to have uh, down payment
Down
assistance,
payment.
right, then that is a overlay or a rule of the state of South Carolina, and good luck getting them to budge. So
No.
it's something you got to kind of balance it on how you want to attack it. Now, if you have the wherewithal to get qualified for conventional, we can use what you're paying on your income payment plan, which is you get with Coach Toya. Let's get you up to a 680. You qualify for conventional loan, and we can take, you say that same $50,000 student loan. You're only paying $150 a month. We'll take that under conventional guidelines.
Okay.
If you are VA, they're also very forgiving. They'll take 5% of the outstanding amount divided by 12, which is, will lower the payment as well. VA has very uh, lenient and flexible guidelines around student loans. FHA is the most stringent. If you can qualify for conventional, I would advise it. In the long run, that's the cheapest way to do it and gives you the most flexibility. You will need somewhere upwards at a minimum 675 to 680 score to qualify for a conventional loan. But we can take your income repayment plan.
Okay.
All
So I
right.
think we're done with South Carolina. Are we moving
That's
into
such a
North Carolina? I'm getting some pings about. Let's talk about North Carolina. So
North
looks
Carolina.
like more North Carolina are on the
Right, right.
broadcast.
So North Carolina comes back February the 1st. Okay, that's in
Okay.
another week and a half. Okay, they are giving $8,000. Okay, anywhere in the state. All right, you don't have to be a first-time home buyer. As long as you haven't owned a home in 3 years. Okay, they
Okay.
are using qualifying income, so they don't look at like South Carolina would do about everybody who's working in the home. So let's say you have a mother who's living in the home and she gets a Social Security check. If we don't need her to qualify, we won't put her on there. We'll go off after the primary. It's a little bit more flexible. They used to, even if you had a teenage son who was working a part-time job, we would have to count that income, and it could push you outside the income threshold. Okay, there are thresholds for income with the state of North Carolina. 43% debt to income, so it's a little bit more stringent than South Carolina, and that's a hard cap. Cannot go over 43% debt to income. Okay, you can get $8,000. Again, that can be used for anything associated with the purchase of the home: down payment, closing costs, attorney fees, origination, homeowners insurance, and property taxes, or to buy down the rate if anything is left over. Okay. You can use it with other down payment assistance programs. I've seen them when you stack them two or three of them. Okay. And I'm going to get into a couple more after that. And you can conceivably have to bring anything to closing. But again, drawbacks. And we'll talk about the pros and cons and what you feel is best for your situation. Everybody's situation is a little bit different. Same
Right.
thing. It's a silent second mortgage on the home. You have to stay there 15 years. Now, it becomes forgivable in year 11. Years 11 through 15, it drops 20%. Okay.
Oh,
So
wow.
20% becomes forgivable in year 11, another 20% in year 12, another 20% in year 13, all the way. So if you sell the home in year 13, you're only responsible for 40% of the 8,000, which is $3,200 upon the sale. But look, this is taxpayer funded. Everybody here works and pays taxes. You should take advantage if it's available to you. And
Right.
if you feel like you're going to put down roots and you're not going to move anytime soon, this is and it's a matter of getting the word out in terms of what's available to help you get into the home. So again, you can stack that program. Another one here in Charlotte is the House Charlotte program. This is the third one. House Charlotte is through the city of Charlotte. Okay. You have to stay within the Charlotte Mecklenburg city limits. That is very, very important. If it's not in the city, it's not eligible. So for those who are in Charlotte, that's within the 485 loop. Okay. Usually most homes within the 485 loop will qualify for House Charlotte. You can get anywhere from 10,000 to 17,000 depending on how many people are living in the home, how much income, and if you're in what's called a high cost district. So for example, for those in Charlotte, if you want to buy a home in Ballantyne, okay, that's South Charlotte. Those homes are a little bit more expensive, so they'll put up to $17,000 to compensate for that. Okay. If you are an EMT or an emergency room nurse, they have some a firefighter or a first responder. They have community heroes where you can qualify for that 17,000, depending on your. It's very specific to your employment. So if you work a specific type of job, that's frontline as a thank you for your service, and you can get access to those monies as well. Well, how Charlotte, you're gonna need a 620 credit score. Okay,
Okay.
45% debt to income is the maximum. How Charlotte has an inspection where they go in and look at the home and make sure that there are no safety issues, and those issues have to be addressed before closing. So even if it's cosmetic, because this house has to be able to sell when you're ready to move on. So they are very touchy about that. Um,
Mm.
Inspection and want to make sure that their home is sound and that there are no issues. And I have seen it cause problems. So just be aware of that. They're going to lift the hood, kick the tires, and make sure that home is structurally sound and there's no mold, no leaking roof, things of that nature. So you can stack that program. Let's say 10,000 from House Charlotte with 8,000 from North Carolina Housing, get conceivably $18,000.
But both of those programs, you cannot leave. I mean, you if you sell the house before 15 years, you have to pay it back.
You're going to pay it back with the
Okay.
proceeds of the home. Both of those homes, you will not make payments during the time you live in the home. It gets paid back with the proceeds from the sale of the home. So if you sell it, then you got to make sure you have enough equity to pay that back because you don't want to be upside down. So
So
you have
what
to stay there.
happens? Have you ever seen a situation happens where that happens? A person sells the house and they don't have enough proceeds to be able to pay it
I
back. What
haven't run
happens
into
then?
that. You
Okay.
would probably have to come out of pocket to make them whole, though. Some form of. I can check on that and I'll email. I can. That's a good
Yeah,
question. I'm
just
not going to
be
sit here and answer questions
interesting.
that I don't know. Yeah, that's
Because
interesting.
what if somebody does that and they lose their job in this particular environment and the home? I mean, I know Charlotte right now is a
It's going
definitely a
up. Yeah,
yeah, but it's
it's
possible.
conceivable. It is definitely conceivable on if you will be responsible. I guess it's going to depend on if you lose your job and it goes into foreclosure. That's not really your fault. I mean, you lost your job. If you decide to sell, because you're a move up buyer, that's something else. But I can do some research and find and kind of get an answer out
Okay.
of that. That's a good question. The last program that I want to talk about is called CPLP, which is
Okay.
Community Loan Partners. Now, let me go back real quick. When you are stacking the programs, so you have one program that has a 45% debt to income ratio, and another one has 43. They're going to go with the lower of the two because you won't qualify for one if you don't qualify for the other, right? So if you're going to
Right.
stack them, okay. When you're going to stack programs, give it 60 days. All right, because you're going to get underwritten by three different entities. One by the lender, in our case would be Movement Mortgage. Then we got to send it to House Charlotte, get them to underwrite it, then send it to the state of North Carolina for the North Carolina Home Advantage and the 8,000. So a very time consuming process. Your realtor is going to have to negotiate that seller is going to have to wait 60 days. So just be aware, if you find a seller, you're competing against other buyers who can close in 30 days. So it needs to be the right situation.
Right.
And somebody who doesn't have to leave right this minute. So again, you want to be strategic about this because you want to be a competitive buyer.
Right. I never even thought about that. Is that because of the climate we're in these days
Yes.
that it's
Yes, that is the
okay?
free market system where a seller gets to choose what offer they take. If you're competing, you're competing against buyers who may be able to go conventional. You're or investors who will come in and pay cash, or another buyer who may have to sell his home in order to get the proceeds to
To
put
buy
a down
their
payment
other
on a new
home.
home. Everybody's
Yeah,
situation is a little bit different. I mean, so I mean, it's just it's a free for all out there for the most part,
I
and
know. It's
you know,
okay. So I did have two comments that came through. So the first one is, are there different grant assistance options based on the counties in North Carolina?
yes, some of them are county specific. For example, the city of Rock Hill has their own program and they are specific. You need to really dig into details. They only pay for closing costs. They don't pay for down payment. Okay. Whereas the city of Concord has one where they pay $7,500 and it pays down payment closing costs. So yes, you can look at the city, but you have to stay in the city. Um, and you can some of them will let you stack the programs, other them will not. So you got to kind of have an idea of where you want to live, and then you can look at the county or city specific down payment assistance program for that city and make sure it's approved through that lender because they don't do them all for whatever reason. So
So I'm assuming movement does them all
we, for the most part, yeah,
for the
or we
most
can get
part.
it, well, we can get them approved if it's not one that we have on the books. But yes, it is county specific.
Okay. There was another question. Not quite sure I understand this question. So if you can clarify to the person who just wrote this, please clarify. But it says, what if I have the student loan forgiveness letter? I applied back in November for the loan forgiveness and was approved for $0 monthly payment, but I have to reapply yearly. I
If it's
wonder if that's
given,
related
do you
to
have to pay
this.
it back, or is that deferment? I mean, is the loan, if it's forgiven, you don't have to pay it back ever.
Well, maybe it's something, and I don't know. I'm just
That
kind of,
deferment.
for the sake of conversation, it could be, like for instance, me personally, I had applied for a disability letter, a disability forgiveness for my student loans, and every year I have to resubmit all of my income documents to make sure that I'm no longer or that I'm not able to work a certain amount.
Right.
And then whenever I started making more, they kicked me out of that program. So I'm wondering if it's something related to that, where if you have to reapply every year to maintain eligibility, how does that work in terms of, I guess, the
With
1% maybe?
conventional, yeah, with a conventional loan, we'll take the income repayment plan, and I've seen it where you don't have to pay it back for 3 or 4 years, and we'll use zero for the payment. On conventional, you're allowed to do that. Okay, FHA will not allow you to do that. So you got to make sure you have the credit score to qualify for conventional in order to use that reduced or non-payment.
Okay.
But I have seen where we use zero for that payment because for whatever during the program and it's deferred for a indefinite period of time, and we'll go off that per conventional guidelines.
But what about FHA? It's going to
FHA,
be the same thing. It's going to be the 1%,
what
I'm
one
assuming.
percent? Yeah, it's gonna be 1%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or what's on the credit report? Let's just say it shows $100 on the credit report. We'll go with the lower of the two. We won't use 1%.
Okay. One, I've noticed in the past these programs are only available until the funds ran out. Is that the
Hmm.
same thing that's going on this
Hmm.
time?
Yeah, there was a program called Neighborhood Lift through Bank of America and through Wells Fargo, and they got sued a few years back for redlining, where they didn't do loans on certain sides of town. Okay, and they were sued. So as a part of the settlement, they had a big chunk of money and said, okay, we'll give you $15,000, and you had to make an appointment, and this is first come, first serve. And that line was wrapped around the convention center to get an appointment and get a reservation to get that $15,000. Usually they go from city to city, and they do it once a year. I think that's kind of how they set it. They'll come to your city for like a week. You come in there, do the questionnaire, do the interview process, and if you qualify, you get the $15,000. But yeah, it's first come, first serve.
For all of these programs, right?
Many of them,
Many of
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Okay.
I think they're funded through a grant through the housing department and urban development. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess those were the top three, huh? So everything is available. No, South Carolina is available now. North Carolina has nothing until February 1st.
February the 1st. Yeah.
Okay.
February 1st, it'll be available. The last program I want to talk about is CPLP,
Okay.
Community Owned Partners. Yeah. You can get up to $30,000 in down payment assistance, and you can stack it on the North Carolina housing. Now, that is not a forgivable loan. Okay. When you
That's
go
the
sell that
catch.
home, that's the catch. Now, that will make your payment lower. You won't make payments on that loan. You'll have a loan. But when you go to sell that home, okay, you got to pay the $30,000 back. No
If
ifs
you sell.
and if you sell, right? And it's not forgivable. So the house will get sold at some point. you know, um, Even after you pay off the first mortgage, you have to start paying off. You don't have to pay it off, but when it gets sold, upon your death or when it gets passed over with the deed or whatever, when that house gets sold, that they get all of that money back, the 30,000. You
Why would
never.
anybody want to do that? Who's the customer that would benefit or that you have seen
Yeah, I have
want something like
seen.
that?
Yeah, when the $8,000 wasn't enough, and they wanted a big enough down payment to help avoid private mortgage insurance,
PMI.
get rid of PMI. Yeah,
Okay.
right, right. Again, trade offs though. So I mean,
Makes sense.
PMI is based on the first mortgage.
Right. So this is a $30,000. Is it up to
Up
30,000?
up
Up
to
to 30.
30,000,
So
depending
you
on your
whatever
income.
amount that you
Yeah.
may be
Now,
short, you can
for
use for
that,
this.
let me say this too: 43% debt to income, and you have to make 80% or below of the average mortgage, average median income for your county. So it's for people who have good credit. You need a 640, okay, but you just don't make a whole lot of money. You make about $40,000 a year or something like that. And so if you're over that, you probably won't qualify. And depending on how many people are in the home, so it's very specific. A lot of strings attached, but it is out there, and we can take a look and see if you qualify. It's
All
called
right.
CPLP, and it's a statewide program. It's statewide. So
Well, you gave us a lot of information. So I want to recap. This time I'm going to take notes so that I can put a
okay,
detailed description underneath this. So let's start from the beginning. We're going to start with South Carolina. So
okay.
what
South
was
Carolina,
South Carolina?
$7,000,
Okay.
45% debt to income, and income limits uh, based on county,
Okay.
and 15-year forgivable loan.
Was that the one that it went down after 11? Like it
That's
dropped 20?
North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
That's South Carolina.
Okay, so that's South Carolina, right?
Yeah, correct.
Credit score requirement 620?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else about that?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay, and that's available now.
Yes, available now for South Carolina.
All right. So what was the second one we talked about? I know it was
North
North
Carolina,
Carolina.
$8,000,
Okay. But
43.
that wasn't House Charlotte, right?
No,
House
no.
Charlotte is okay. So North Carolina is 8,000.
Mm-hmm. 43% debt to income.
Okay.
Uh, that is 15-year forgivable in years 11 through 15. And they're a little bit more liberal with their income requirements as well. Most people can kind of fit can make that work. They're not as stringent.
Okay, say that again.
They're a little bit more liberal on their income requirements. You can make a little bit more money and still qualify.
All right. But do you know what that amount is?
It
Or it
differs
just
between
depends? It
county.
depends on the county.
Hmm.
Okay.
How's Charlotte? Anywhere from 7,500 to 17,000, depending on what side of the city you live in.
7,500 to what?
17,000.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. They go anywhere from 80% of the average median income up to 110% of the average median income. So in Charlotte, the average median income for a one-person household is like 58,000. So anywhere between, you can get something all the way up to around 63,000, 64,000 for a single person.
Okay.
45% debt to income.
Okay.
And 15-year forgivable loan, and can be used in conjunction with other down payment assistance programs.
Okay.
And then CPLP.
That was the one. Up to 30,000. I remember that.
30,000.
And not forgivable.
Non-forgivable.
Not ever forgivable.
Ever. They're gonna get it back out of you. 43% debt to income. And you need to be at least 80% or below of the average median income for your county.
All right. Did we cover them all?
I think we did. Yeah.
All right.
If anybody has any questions, give me a phone call. My cell phone number is 704-497-1780. 704-497-1780, or shoot me an email at Reggie, REGGIE .Rucker, RUCKER @movement.com. Happy to help any way I can.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Reggie. This has been a lot of information. So we're going to outline it in the comments below so that people can always refer back to it. And definitely you could share this video on your page as well, because I don't think it's streamed to your page. So you can share it. And if no one else has any questions, I think we'll go ahead and end it. Anything else you want to say, Reggie?
Thank you for having me on tonight. And any friends or family have questions, reach out to me. I'm here to help.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Till next time.
All right. Yeah, have a good night.
See ya. Good night.